Hello and welcome to this week's Koala Wednesday webinar. For those of you that have not joined before, every Wednesday we get together for an hour and talk about one item or topic that is top of mind in the world of AI. And just gives us an opportunity to try and keep up with what is going on in this rapidly evolving space. Depending on where you're dialing in from, it might be early morning, it might be in the afternoon. So welcome. Thank you very much for joining. As we do each week, we're going to go through our main topic of the day, which today is about AI in finance teams. And specifically, we're going to be talking about Claude. We'll spend anything from between 15 minutes to maybe even 30 minutes on this topic. There's a lot for us to go through. Once we've done that, we have our recurring segment, AI in the news. There's so much stuff happening, and I'm going to just walk you through some of the latest releases that have happened in the last 7 days so that you can keep on top of things. And then we've got the opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have. Now, this doesn't have to be about the topics that we've talked about, whether that's Claude for Finance or any of the new releases. Maybe you've got a question about how to write the perfect prompt. We'll definitely take the opportunity to help you with that while we're on the call. Now, if this is your first time in a Zoom meeting, then either up at the top of your screen or the bottom, depending on what platform you're on, you'll see that there's an ability to chat. And you've also got the ability to ask questions as well. So I'm just going to move that up onto my screen. So I both got the Q&A and that, and I'll try and keep an eye on what is going on. If not, you can always just request, and my colleague Caitlin will bring you to the floor and you can actually speak if you want as well. So with that, let's get into today's topic of the week, where we're going to focus on AI for finance teams. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about Claude as a platform for finance teams. Now, in so many of the clients that we work with, finance teams can often be some of the last to get on board. And I don't mean that in a negative way. If we think about ChatGPT, well, it's about words, isn't it? It's about writing. It's not really about numbers. And maybe some people have had early attempts at using, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot, and using it for some finance processes. And they've come away sorely disappointed and thinking, well, that didn't work. I'm just going to go back to my manual way of working. And so what I'm going to hope to achieve over the next sort of 30 minutes or so is just showing you some ways that AI is really coming along to help finance teams with the work that they're doing. So let's just think about some of the common use cases that are coming up in the clients that we're working with. And it's pretty broad. So one of them is just around analysis. We've got a lot of information. We've got a lot of data. It's sitting in systems, it's sitting in spreadsheets, and we need to do some analysis because other people in our business are asking us for, what's the forecast? Where are we headed? What's our best case and worst case? So there's a lot of this number crunching that is going on. Next up is a reconciliation. Now, this comes up in every client that I'm working with. So at the end of a quarter, the end of a month, we've got this spreadsheets that are coming from different systems. We've got NetSuite pulling this out. We've got Workday pulling this out. We've got our Salesforce system pulling that out. And we're trying to bring all of this together. And there's some lucky finance analyst who is having to merge these documents, VLOOKUPs, pivot tables, trying to find a primary key that they can match the invoices against the POs. And this takes a lot of manual effort and, of course, is prone to error. Next up, about compliance and controls. So as an organization, especially if we're a larger organization, maybe we're regulated, maybe we're public, We need to be following accurate processes about accounting, our auditing, our tax, how we're recognizing revenue, all of these kinds of things. We need a way of flagging up if something has gone incorrect. Um, and then finally, we've got to report on what we're doing. If we're a public company, every quarter our CEO and CFO are going on the investor updates, and we need to provide accurate information. Even if we're not a public company, we are providing updates to our management team and the executive. So how do we take these huge sets of data and numbers and start to bring that together into something that can be understood and analyzed by someone that is not a finance expert? And I'm just seeing a lovely message here from Andy, just saying, loving your work. Thank you very much for that, Andy. Thanks for hosting this. Is Caitlin real? Caitlin is absolutely real, and she is there if you've got any other questions while I'm talking. Although we do have some non-humans that are doing some of the work, but Caitlin is one of the ones with a heartbeat. So our journey today that we're going to go through, specifically talking about finance and use cases here with Claude. I'm going to go through sort of three different levels for you. So level one, just sort of the basics. How do we use Claude? How do we chat? Just me as an individual, doing some finance work. Then we're going to go up a level, and I'm going to introduce you to Claude Skills, which is how we can document how we do things in our finance team, and the concept of this being multiplayer, and so multiple people across a finance team working on the same thing. And then we're going to get to advanced level at the end, where we're going to talk about agents working for you. And to your point, Andy, how we build our new finance assistant that isn't actually a human. So let's start in level one, and I'm going to introduce you to a thing called Claude for Excel. So let's just step back a bit. If you've not heard of Claude, Claude is an AI platform in the same vein of ChatGPT, of Copilot, of Gemini. You chat to it, it chats back to you. Now, what's different about Claude? It's a product from a company called Anthropic. Anthropic was set up by a number of people that were in the founding team at OpenAI. And what Claude and Anthropic are focused on is on the enterprise. It's on business use cases. It's on spreadsheets. It's workflows. It's process. They're not focused on building some nice social network and glitzy videos of you dressed up like an action man. This is all about business use cases. And so Claude for Excel is a plugin that you can get, which will plug in to Excel. I'll share this link with you afterwards, but you basically go to the Microsoft Marketplace, you search for Claude, and then you install it, and it will appear in the ribbon at the top of your Excel. If you're working in a company that has lots of these things locked down, you might need to go and speak to your friendly CIO or IT admin to say, please, can you allow us at an organization level to install Claude for Excel? But once that's in, then you're going to have it here. So let me just switch over to an Excel spreadsheet here, and you can take a look at this. So I'm in Office 365, so I'm obviously in my browser, but the same thing would happen if you've got Excel downloaded on your desktop. And here you can see I've got my Open Claude icon, and that has opened up Claude in Excel on the right-hand side here. Now this spreadsheet has actually got nothing to do with finance. It is a spreadsheet that shows all of the air traffic movements in the UK by airport during June 2020. Now, if you cast your mind back to that lovely summer of 2020 and what we were all doing, well, we were all in probably our second lockdown and no one was flying anywhere. But it's a public data source, it's a spreadsheet, and it allows us to do some stuff here. So what I've got here, this is quite basic. We've just got the ability to ask some questions. There's not really much else we can do here. It's not connected to anything else. But I might ask a question here. Hey, I've just been given this spreadsheet. Can you help me to understand what it is that I'm looking at so that I can start to do some analysis on it? I'm just using my favorite tool, Whisper Flow there, which allows me to talk and it just puts the words that I'm talking into wherever my cursor is. So it just speeds things up. So here's Claude getting to work on our spreadsheet. And let me scroll up a bit so you can see what's going on here. Oh, it's keen to work. So let me let it work and then I'll show you what it's done. Do, 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 do. Go, 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 go. Okay, so let me bring this over here a little bit. So what did it do? It read the top row to understand the structure of the database of the table. It read the bottom rows to find out are there some totals or end of data, and then it read everything that was in between. And you can see what it's doing here. It's basically writing itself scripts to work out what it's got. So it's using code in a way to navigate its sort of way around. And there you saw just in a couple of seconds, this is a UK civil aviation data set showing aircraft movements from June 2020. So it's worth noting this was during the height of the pandemic. There is nothing in this spreadsheet that says pandemic other than the fact June 2020. So this is Claude going, this is what you're looking at. So traffic levels are likely significantly low below normal, likely because it doesn't have the other data set, but hold that thought because we might give it something like that in a minute. So the structure, 54 airports listed across A2 to A58. Great. 16 columns of data. Here are all of the columns. So you'll be able to try this out with one of your spreadsheets and you'll be like, yeah, Claude pretty much understands exactly what's going on in this spreadsheet. It's been able to pull out some of the key themes here. So Heathrow had the most amount of movements, 7,564. Heathrow, 7,564. Okay, great. So it's already doing some kind of analysis here. So what kind of analysis are you interested in? Here's some ideas to get you started. Would you like to rank them? Would you like to compare them? Would you break it down? Identifying airports dominated by non-commercial activity. Well, I'm going to say okay, great. Obviously, during the pandemic, there was a big reduction in passenger transport. But is there anything we can learn from this about how transport was standing up in terms of non-passenger transport? So it's quite a sort of broad question where I'm asking for a bit of analysis about what is here, and it's going to be able to go off and do that. Now, you might ask it to create a new tab where it can put this analysis. You might, in a minute, I'll show you, create a chart. It can create pivot tables. And so you can really get it to become like your financial analyst that is working on your deck as you would ask a human to do. We're thinking away here. I'm just wondering if no, I don't need to do anything. There, it's read all the aircraft movement data. Okay, so here's our analysis. If we were doing this on our actual, I don't know, balance sheet or our profit and loss, obviously we've got real sort of analysis that we're wanting to look at here. What I might then say is, okay, this is fantastic. Could you create a pie chart that shows all of the air transport column split by each of the airports, but could you put anything that's under 10% into an others category so that we don't have all of the smaller airports? Could you put this onto a new tab, please? And so it's not just the analysis of this spreadsheet, we can actually get it to take action. So think about things like I want to combine these two columns. I want to sum these rows. I want to build a pivot table that contrasts this group by that group. We can get it to do these things. And okay, so it's telling me I've asked a silly question with a strict 10% cutoff. Okay, now let's pause that. Oh, well, it's asking me a question here. It's saying I've asked a silly question, asking for a 10% others cutoff. There would only be two. So let's lower it to 2%, which is a more reasonable question. No worries. I'll go with it. Okay, it's gone with a 10%. Maybe I didn't click that. I'll just get you to see a chart being created. Now I've created the new tab. Now I'm writing the pie chart. Here's the data. Obviously, I asked a silly question. And then here's our chart being built. All done. Here's your new pie chart. So this is Claude for Excel, and feedback that we're getting from clients is this is just like amazing when they've got really complex spreadsheets that they're working on, and they, especially if it's multiple tabs, the ability for Claude to navigate around these tabs and to take action and do work is really, really fantastic. So let me just dive back to my slides here. So Claude for Excel, go to the Microsoft Marketplace, install it. If you're not allowed, ask IT, please can I install it? You will need to have a Claude license, I should say, for that to log in. These are some of the types of questions that you might be thinking about. We talked about analysis, help me think about how this is being built, what assumptions are driving this, what if scenarios. Can you help me to increase the growth rate by 2%, 5%, 6%, and then see what impact that would have? Can we do a bit of research on what the Bank of England is forecasting around interest rates and what that might mean to our Q3 and Q4? All of these types of things that you might be building this kind of analysis and reporting yourself, you can now do just by asking Claude to do it for you. So if that was level one, we're just having a chat and we're doing something ourselves. Now let's go up a level, and I want to introduce a thing called skills, and we're going to take a look at multiplayer as well. Like, how can we do this across our finance team? So Claude Skills are a thing that we covered 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm not going to go deep on them. If you want a deep dive on skills, then go to our previous webinars on the website and you'll get a deeper dive. But with a skill, you can think about a way of doing things in our company. Maybe it's a process. This is how we close the books at the end of a month. This is how we hire new financial analysts. This is how we submit our tax returns. It's the way of doing things that might be documented, in a document on SharePoint. You might have a Visio diagram. They may just be in your head, and how they're doing things. And what we can do is to codify these in a skill that gives Claude the ability to support you in that. So think about these types of processes in your finance team, right? Here's how we process invoices. We do it on the 15th of the month, we do it on the 30th of the month, and this is what we do, and here's who approves it, and this is the form we need to fill out, and this is the system that we update, our accounting system like Xero, whatever that might be. We're a SaaS company. Here's how we recognize revenue based on what's going on. Here's how we pay everyone's expense claims and what's approved and what's not and what is the threshold. Here's how we close the books at the end of every month and every quarter. This is the process that we go through. Here's how we build all of our forecasts and our best case and worst case and our budgets and how we scale that down to or cascade that down to all of the different teams. And here's how we calculate and submit all our tax returns. And I'm sure for your company, your business, there'll be 100 other things that this is the way that we do things. And so this is where skills come in. And so what is a skill? Well, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, actually. I'll point you back to the skills webinar. But what I will say is that when you create a few of those skills, it will supersize the way that your finance team are able to do these processes, because you will codify the way that you do things. And then when you go to Claude and say, right, can you help us to close out the month? It is going to follow that process that you've already documented. I'll give you a bit of insight into that in a minute to show you a bit like how that works in practice. As well as some of the skills that you're going to build, which are going to be documenting your ways of working, Claude also includes some pre-built skills that they have created. And one of those that I wanted to show you is their Excel skill. And so this teaches Claude how to work and interact with Excels. So here are the top sort of instructions for this skill. Use this skill anytime a spreadsheet file is the primary input or output. And so wherever you're using an Excel, Claude is going to automatically use this skill. And what this does is it teaches Claude all about Excel. Here's how it works. Here's how we want to format tabs. Here are the colors. Here's how we do the different data types for numbers and zeros. Here's how we deal with formulas. Here's how we create new Excels and new tabs. All of this kind of stuff that where Claude for Excel was working a minute ago, this is what it's using in the background. So you don't need to teach Claude how to use Excel because it's already got this skill embedded. So that's just to show you a little bit about what is going on behind. Now let me go back over to my main Claude, just in the web interface, so Claude.ai, and I've got a little project here. So projects sit on your sidebar here. A project is basically a wrapper around a specific set of instructions, a specific set of information that means that one or more people can come to the same place and have conversations about this topic. So my project here is just finance demo, but your project might be end of period closing. Your project might be FY27 forecasting and budgeting. Your project might be tax returns. So, okay, why have I got a project for that? Well, the reason why we've got a project is one, we're going to give Claude very detailed instructions about this process. So in your scenario for closing out month end, the project instructions are going to be in this project, we are closing out Koala month end periods. You're going to be provided with access to these systems where you're going to pull the relevant data from. You're going to follow this specific process. We're basically teaching Claude what we want to do. We're then going to give the project access to various systems. Does it need access to the web? But we do need to give it access to our Google Drive, which is where we've got lots of our spreadsheets, for example. If you are on Microsoft, you're going to provide it access to SharePoint and to various bits and pieces there. Maybe you need to give it access to your CRM system so that it can have visibility into your upcoming pipeline if you're doing forecasting. Any of your systems that you're using, this is where you want to connect it up and give it the eyes and ears so that it can do its work. And then in this example, I've given it access to files. So I've given it access to the Excel spreadsheet, which is our good old travel during the pandemic. And then I've also now given it access to the March 2025 aircraft movement. So obviously post-pandemic. So this is us setting up a project. We give it instructions, we give it eyes and ears by giving access to tools, and then we give it access to files, which could be various financial information that we've got. And then we can go multiplayer. So now we can share this project to other people. And just to show that Caitlin is a real person, I will share this with Caitlin and give her access so that she can view this project as well. So you can imagine your finance team might be 20 people. They're all working on various bits and pieces. We can create 5 or 6 finance-related projects for different parts of our process. We can define the instructions, the tools, and the files once, and then anyone can come in and have their conversation here. Now, it's important to mention here that this is not like true multiplayer. This is not like a WhatsApp group where everyone's going to start to see each other's threads. Actually, everyone's chats are private unless they choose to share them with someone else. So there's a lot of safety there that if you, the CFO, are coming in and having some conversations about your forecast and the budget and what that might mean for payroll and headcount, no one else is able to see those conversations unless you choose to share it. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, Hey, in your project knowledge, you've got access to two spreadsheets. Can you just take a look and familiarize yourself with what they are? And then I want to do some analysis where we can compare and contrast between these two spreadsheets. So similar kind of thing. It's got access now to the two spreadsheets, not just one, and it's going to use its XLX skill here. So this is the thing it's loaded up its skill that came from Claude automatically to teach itself how to work with Excels. And so here I think a little bit about the film The Matrix. If you can cast your mind back to watching The Matrix, there's a scene in that where Neo loads up the skill of Kung Fu. And like in 20 seconds, he's like, oh, now I know Kung Fu. Well, what Claude just did there was, oh, now I know Excel. And so now I know exactly how to work with it. And if we've created some of your skills for how you do month end, how you do tax returns, how you do forecasting, it's going to load up that skill and go, oh, now I know koala forecasting. And so this is where these skills come in. So here's what we're working with. Two data sets, identical structure, very different time periods. Both spreadsheets cover this to this. Now, if you imagine in your scenario, you might have last year's P&L and you might have your forecast P&L for next year, two spreadsheets, compare and contrast. You might have the last 3 years, compare and contrast. You might be doing some analysis on 3 suppliers. Let's do some analysis across these things. So you kind of get the idea. So good candidates for analysis. Okay. What I'm really interested to understand is how the traffic across these airports differed across the two periods. Like, for example, can we see that passenger traffic was impacted more than commercial traffic? And so again, it's going to be using its Claude Excel skill to go, right, how do I interpret these two spreadsheets? And let me go and crunch the numbers. It is writing code here or scripts, I should say, to analyze that. So this is very different to how AI handles words. We're not just predicting the next number, the next token. We're not guessing and hypothesizing. We are running actual code to analyze this so that we get 100% exactly the right number back, not a kind of best guess. So this data tells a really clear story. Let me build this into a proper comparison spreadsheet. So I'll let that build. Here we can think about all of the types of work that you are already doing and how do you bring this into the platform and then allow your junior financial analysts, people that work in different teams to be able to interact with this data in a single place so that people aren't having to create their own projects or their own prompts and they're all working consistent. Okay, let me copy the outputs. What I love about this world is like how fast my expectations have changed. That now waiting 25 seconds for someone to create a very detailed consolidated spreadsheet with multiple tabs. After 20 seconds, I'm twitching. But here we go. So it's created this new spreadsheet with 3 different tabs explaining what's going on. So I've asked it to compare the pandemic versus recovery. So here's the pandemic numbers, here's the recovery numbers, here's the change and the percentage. Okay, wonderful. Here's some key insights. Here's the airport comparison. Great. And I didn't even really ask it for this. If I'd actually had a proper question and I was working on actual accounts, I'd have had a much more detailed question. Oh, and it's helped me out by grouping it by region because it thinks that I might like that. So this is super helpful, and it's a nice looking spreadsheet as it is, but you could brand this totally because if you provide it with a brand skill as well, you could say that when we create spreadsheets, we want our orange color for the headers, we want our logo, so you can tell it all of this stuff so that you don't have to do any fine tuning. Okay, so that's kind of the intermediate level skills which teach Claude how to do something, and then multiplayer, which is being able to share that across multiple people in your teams. And so now to finish our section on finance use cases, we're now going to talk about going one level further, and we're going to talk about building your first agents that can actually do the work. Now, you're going to hear the word agents a lot this year, and agent this, agent that. Have you got an agent? What agents have you got? You know, how many? And people are like, to be honest, can I ask you a question? What is an agent? I haven't actually got a clue. So let me just help you understand very quickly what an agent is in this context. And I'm going to introduce you to a thing called an agentic loop. So here, you've got your prompt on the left-hand side. So this is you asking a question. And then instead of the AI coming back to you very quickly with an answer and coming back to you with a chat, I'm actually going to do some work. So here, it's going to start off by gathering some context, and typically that means it's going to look at different files that are on your laptop in a directory that you've given it access to. Then it's going to go and do the work, do some work. So building out our dollar cost averaging, building out our forecast, building out different variances for our budgets. It's then going to verify what it's built, and then it's going to go back to the start again, and then it's going to keep going, keep going. So if you can imagine like preparing our tax return, building out our 2027 forecast, helping us to map out our headcount for 2027. This is not like come back to me in 20 seconds with a chat. This is, I want you to go away and work for an hour. I'm going to give you enough instructions that you can go and do that, but carry on working and grinding away and then come back to me once you've built out our plan. So that's what an agentic loop is. And I'm going to introduce you to a new part of Claude, which is called Claude Cowork, which is what drives this at the Claude platform. Now, to get to this, you're going to need to download the Claude desktop application. So let me just show you a little bit of where that is. So I'm now in my web Claude. So if you're in your web Claude, all well and good. Down the bottom of your drag to move. Oh, it's not going to let me move that. How do I need to get behind there slightly. There we go. So here you're going to see download Cowork in your settings, download Cowork. And that is going to download Claude as a desktop app on your laptop. So let me go and open that up. You can see this at the bottom of my screen. Here is Claude. And so I'm going to open it up. So this is my Claude desktop app. It looks very much the same. I can go in, I can have a chat, I can go to my projects, all well and good. The thing that is different is that up at the top here, you've got two additional tabs, Cowork and Code. Cowork and Code. Code, don't worry about. We'll talk about that on another webinar for developers. But Cowork is bringing this agentic capability to your to your laptop. So we're going to continue with the same theme of our airports because it's easy data to work with. So firstly, Cowork has got access to any projects. If you wanted to give it access to your projects, you can. It's got access to all of your connectors. It's got access to some of your plugins. I'm going to show you them in a minute. But the thing that's unique to this being a desktop app and why you need to download it as a desktop, it's got access to directories on your laptop, the ones that you give it permission for. So here, for example, I've given it access to in my documents directory on my Mac, I've got a koala reserved and a strategy directory. And this is where I plan out all of our strategy for the company. And so actually, I'm going to go a little bit off my script, and I'm not going to carry on with the airports because I just want to show you a little bit about how this thing can navigate around that directory. Hey, Claude, we are working on our business plan for FY27, which starts in March 2027. Can you navigate to our corporate strategy directory? In there, you're going to find our playing to win strategy, but also some of our unit economics. So can you familiarize that yourself with that? And then what I want you to help me to do is to build out a 2027 budget that is going to support our financial goals, but following our corporate strategy. Okay, that's quite a wide-ranging question. And yours would be a bit more specific, and you'd probably be pointing it to specific documents that you've got. But I know that on my laptop, I've got this directory, and I know that in it, it's got a lot of this financial information around our unit economics and where we're building out our growth strategy. So this is the agent at work, the agentic loop. I'm gathering context. That was the first thing. Right, I'm going to go and read these things. Let me go and list the corporate strategy document. It's now finding these things on our directory. And here I can click on this. So it's finding them. Koala strategic priorities. This document outlines our strategic priorities. What else is it finding? Unit economics. Unit economic notes. This I was working on the other day. So all of the notes from our unit economics. Oh, this was a long document, long bit of Claude work that we were doing. Unit economics. What else has it found? Okay, our winning aspiration, our management systems, financial model. So it's gathered the context. That was the first part of the agentic loop. Now you get this beautiful thing in Cowork, which is now going to start asking me some questions to help it to do its work. So what's your revenue target for FY27? The unit economics doc models a long-term path to 45 million ARR. But for FY27 specifically, what are you targeting? So I know that we're looking at this level here, so 2 million plus. What's your current team and cost base? The October 2025 forecast showed 26.5K monthly burn with contractors. Has that changed? Did you raise the 250K? So like this thing knows because it has had a look at all of this document. It's asking me super targeted questions that are 100% relevant. So the team has grown, and now it's going to get on with the next bit of its work. So you can imagine you're trying to do something in your scenario, which is building out your budget, building out your headcount plan, building out an acquisition target. This thing is now able to go and do this work. It's now accessing, okay, yeah. So we use Xero as our accounting system, and I've given it access to Xero. What it now wants to do, and I'm not going to do it for the sake of our own confidentiality, I'm not going to click allow now, but this would then go off to Xero, and it will pull in all of our up-to-date invoices, and it will know exactly what our cash position is. It will then likely go off to HubSpot, which is our CRM system, and then it will go and find out what deals we've got in the pipeline. And it will use real information to then go and build out the spreadsheet for our financial forecast for next year. And so this is Cowork really taking on things to a complete new level where you can imagine instead of you hiring a financial analyst or some external consultants, this thing is now going to be able to do a lot of that work, and you're able to drive it yourself. So that is Cowork. I'm going to switch back now to my screen here. And I love at the start of these Wednesday webinars, I say every week, our first main topic, we're going to spend 15 or 20 minutes. And when we've got something that's really meaty like this, we spend way more than 15 or 20 minutes because there's just so much good stuff to talk about. But let me go. So that was Cowork. Again, part of your Claude license. If you don't see it, it might be because you're on a team license, an enterprise license, and your admin hasn't enabled it. So just go and ask them. One more goodie on this, which I meant to show you. If I go back to my Claude here, at the bottom in Cowork, you're going to see a thing called plugins. And so plugins are either they come from Anthropic themselves or third parties can provide you with plugins. Now take a look at these plugins from Claude. Customer support, data, enterprise search. Oh, finance. That looks interesting. Great. What does the finance one do? Well, I've installed it. So let me click on it here. So what you get in a plugin is like pre-built skills. So I talked about these earlier. This is the way that we do things, a way of doing things. So in the finance skills, look at these ones here. So close management. How do we close out the period? Manage the month-end close process with task sequencing, dependencies, and status tracking used when planning the close calendar. Great. And this then explains the close checklist. Pre-close, we need to do all of these things. Close day, we need to do these things. Close day, T plus 2, T plus 3. Great. So this is describing a kind of ideal happy path for closing. It may be close to what you do. It may be slightly different. Do not worry because we can start to edit this. It's just text files. So you can use it to customize and edit it depending on what you want to do. So financial statements are in here. Journal entry prep. Reconciliation, our favorite one, comes up in every client project. So 80% of the work is already done. And then what you need to do is just have a chat with Claude to refine these things. If I go back here now and go, hey, can we use the finance plugin to do a reconciliation process? This is then going to just load that up and it's going to allow us to use that plugin automatically. So again, we'll put some of these notes in the follow-up just to help to point you in the direction of that plugin. But this is going to accelerate your finance reconciliation skill is available. I can compare GL balances against subledgers. Since you got Xero connected, I can pull live account data to work with. What reconciliation are you looking to run? Off we go. Let me go back. I think that's the last of my tidbits. My last of my tidbits on finance. So there we go. Now, moving on. AI in the news. What's been happening over the last 7 days? So just a few things, and just to set the scene here. I have a report that runs on a Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock using AI, of course, that goes and scours all of the weekly updates from ChatGPT, from Anthropic, from Gemini, from Copilot, from Grok, XAI. And then I look at what is most impactful for our clients, for you in business use cases, and what can we pass on. The reason why I want to mention that is you might say, well, why do you never talk about Copilot? And I say, frankly, from my perspective, there's nothing to talk about. There really isn't. There's been very few updates from Gemini this week, just some fancy stuff for people in Google search, not from a business perspective. And XAI, again, not many people using that in a business use case. So I read all of the AI in the news, and then I'm just passing you what I think is most applicable in a business situation. So for ChatGPT this week, the main update is an update to deep research. So if you're ChatGPT users, you may have come across deep research. Instead of just optimizing for coming back with a quick chat, it goes off for 10, 15 minutes and it runs, well, the clue's in the title, deep research. And then it'll come back to you with a 9 or 10 page report on a specific topic. So the specific things that have updated this week. So number one is you've now got, you can access deep research from the left-hand side here. It's a top level thing that you can go and do. So they're really starting to promote it in the types of work that you can do. And the second change is that you can now optimize which sites you want it to search for. So if I go into my ChatGPT here, here I am just in a normal chat. Oh, I want to do some deep research. So I'm going to click on that. I now go to this new interface. I'm doing deep research. I could choose which apps I want to do some research over. So maybe I want to do some research there on GitHub, but I can also start to choose which sites I want to search. So I want to search on koala.com. And I want to do deep research on that website and that website only. So just a little bit of more steering that you can do as you're building out your deep research reports. In a finance context, if we're considering this, we might think about doing some deep research on new regulations, new tax regulations, new governance or compliance that's coming out from the EU or from the British government or HMRC. Help me go and learn how to interpret and use this information as we prepare for this quarter's audit or whatever that might be. So that is deep research on ChatGPT. Play with that if you're ChatGPT users. Next up, and I want to say this was Friday night, maybe this came out, was the release of Anthropic's latest model, Opus 4.6, which is their top level reasoning model. The previous model was Opus 4.5. So I always read a lot into the numbers, like, yeah, how far ahead is this? Well, if it was like dramatically more, you might have gone it's Opus 5, or you might have gone it's Opus 8. But Opus 4.6 shows it's a marginal increase, but we're definitely seeing its ability to infer what you're asking for is fantastic improvement. And one of the main benchmarks that we look at is this GDP Val knowledge work benchmark. Now, this was actually created by OpenAI in conjunction with some external researchers. And what this benchmark looks at is they've taken a set number of business domains, business work, accounting, legal, healthcare physicians. And what they set is real world tasks that are then worked on by human individuals and worked on by AI. And the benchmark of human people, these specialists, they score and they basically say, what percentage of the time would you take the AI's response equal or over the human professionals? And so this is basically saying, at what point is AI at the level where you would take the result from the AI over someone that is a professional in that score, that domain. And what this is showing is that Opus 4.6 is right at the top of that benchmark. Now, these benchmarks move rapidly. Tomorrow, who knows? GPT 5.8 might be out, or GPT 6, and suddenly that's at the top of the benchmark. All you need to know is that the benchmarks keep getting beaten. These models keep getting further forwards. And today, Opus 4.6 is the one at the front. Next thing, and this was last night, so it's very fresh off the press. Up until yesterday, Cowork that I was showing you earlier, the sort of agentic tool, was only available on Mac. But from last night, it is available on Windows. So if you are in Microsoft land, then you are able to download, I think it's called Cowork for Windows, or on your machine. If you work in a large company, you may need to go and speak to IT to say, please, can I have permission to provision this across our entire company? But this will then give you the ability to use this. What I will say, and Anthropic are very sort of open about this, Cowork is in a research preview at the moment. It is out there for testing. Things might not work, things might break. Accept that as an early adopter. But I'd start learning it and figuring out how to use it even while it's in that research preview. So with that, I have covered a lot of ground there at a lot of pace. I haven't seen any questions pop up. If you've got any questions, then please feel free to add them in. I'll cover maybe one or two things that are just sort of top of mind at the moment whilst we're having a bit of this kind of discussion. And as I said at the start, you can ask a question about something that we've talked about so far, or you can ask me absolutely anything, and I'll ask it if I can. Just a couple of things that have come up in conversations with clients this week. So the conversation came up about Copilot, and I was speaking to not a customer, but just someone that we were chatting about. In their organization, they've locked down to Copilot because they're in the Microsoft estate. The CIO has said this is what we need to use, and the person I was speaking to was saying, what do we think about that? Do we do any work with Copilot? And what do we think about that? I'm going to pick my words carefully here because I want to be, polite. I've not met anyone in all of my networks that I'm in who uses Copilot voluntarily. It is always, this is what we've been told to use. This is what we have asked our people, to use. What I then hear is that underneath the table, everyone is using something else. So they're using, ChatGPT or Claude, and then they're getting the response from that system, and then they're, typing it back into their Word docs or whatever. The conversation that we were having was, what do we think is the end goal with companies that are stuck in this sort of co-pilot situation. I think over this next 9 or 10 months, there is going to be a massive split between the haves and the have-nots. And the haves are the companies that are using ChatGPT or Claude and are accelerating it at the rate with what we've been looking at today with Claude for Excel. And the have-nots are the people that are unable to use these kind of tools. And we're going to see those companies falling behind, falling behind, falling behind. What I then think, and this is going to come into my next point that I'm going to make, is that it is the senior leaders, the CEO primarily, that is going to make a decision and overrule the people, which might be the CIO or CTO, that are talking about Copilot, or even in some cases, Gemini. Say, look, we need to move faster. I'm using this stuff on my own phone, and we need to give it to everyone else. So I think there will be some job losses with executives that are holding this back. And so that's one sort of question that's been top of mind this week. And the second leads into maybe a more positive approach about how are companies that are leading into this doing it in the right way. And this often is also from the CEO or someone at the top that can make a decision and make things happen. And what we're seeing is a lot of CEO and executive suite briefings and coaching sessions where we're being brought in to meet the 10 leaders. Maybe they're already coming together for a leadership offsite, and they're saying, right, we want to dedicate 2 hours just for these execs and walk through like this type of content that we've talked about today. Because if we get it, and if we know how to prepare for our board meeting, how we run our executive hiring, how we prepare for our all hands meetings, how we run an acquisition, if we get it, then we can filter that down to our VPs and down to our directors and down to the rest of the company. So these are kind of two themes that I'm seeing. Only one other question, which may be rather tongue-in-cheek, I'm not sure. Is Koala going to do an investment round or raise, asking for a friend? Well, that is very kind, and we are absolutely exploring all of our options, because when I talk about how this opportunity for companies is right now, like, I absolutely believe it. I believe it for the clients that we're working with, and I believe it for us ourselves. And I certainly, when I'm having my chats with Claude about our plan, we've not got a 10-year plan. We've got an 18-month plan. And so we're looking at all the options as we accelerate what we're doing here to capitalize on that. So with that, we're coming up to time. Thank you so much. I hope we've covered a lot of ground there. And what I always hope with these sessions is not that you go, oh, I learned something. What I really hope is that you're going to scuttle off right now, get Claude if you haven't got Claude, install Claude for Excel, load up one of your most complex spreadsheets and start chatting with it. And if we do that, then it's been worthwhile what we've been walking through. Next week, we will be regrouping, same time. We're going to focus on marketing as a team next week. So many cool things we can do with marketers, including designing decks, PowerPoint, Canva slides, which we use here, building out plans for your events. So look forward to doing that. If you have a friend who's in marketing, encourage them to register, and we'll be covering similar topics next week. So with that, thank you so much. I hope you found it valuable. Always feel free to just ping us a question if there's anything that you didn't understand. We'll chat soon.